Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. I just thought I'd shoot another video like I used to out here in nature. I just passed the 4-mile mark on a ruck that I'm doing with a little over 40-pound pack. So it's a beautiful day here in SoCal, and we have the lagoon just in the background and then the ocean just beyond that. And so it's an awesome hike out here today. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to the parents who, will be taking their kids back to school here pretty soon. Maybe in some places they've already actually gone back to school. And there's obviously going to be lots of discussion around, what we can do to protect kids from the virus, and lots of discussions around mask wearing and should they get vaccinated or not getting vaccinated. But there's surprisingly zero information about diet. And it's shocking, but I guess not too surprising, kind of the pharmaceutical dominated culture that we're in. But there needs to be some attention that's paid to it. There's an interesting study that is really telling and unfortunate, but I want to shed some light on it and talk about what we can do to kind of reverse these statistics. But just published a few days ago in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, and as a study that was out of the Friedman Nutrition Science and Policy School out of Tufts University, and it was just published in JAMA. And what they did is they looked at teenagers. They looked at over 33,000 teenagers, and they surveyed them and their diets. And what they found out is that 2/3 of the diets are dominated by ultra processed food. So ultra processed food is a lot of the things that you think about, like cookies and cakes and muffins and stuff like that, but it's also a lot of the frozen food that kids are eating for lunch, like frozen pizzas and frozen burritos and packaged, ready to eat and ready to heat kind of prepared foods. And I don't even know the names of these, otherwise I'd be happy to throw out some actual names, but it's these, you know what I'm talking about, it's these packaged foods that are just highly, highly processed. When you look in these packages, there's nothing that looks like anything that nature produced. So that's a sign that it's ultra processed. And even what you would think of and what the package might say as whole grain bread, it's not, it's ultra processed bread. There's no whole grain bread that's like growing from, trees or something. You just can't find it in nature. It doesn't exist. And it's just, it takes massive processing. It's really the processing of these mostly grain-based foods, but you can find it in processed meat products as well. But in these processed grain-based foods, we just don't eat those in the whole form. It just doesn't happen. If you're eating anything that's grain-based, it's most likely to be ultra-processed. And how's that weave into the conversation of the immune system? Well, this pandemic virus penetrates through our mucosal immune system, which is very directly related to the foods that we consume, very directly related. And there's zero conversation about this. And it's 2/3 of diets. And what was striking is the study was studying these 33,000 teenagers, and this is a 20-year study. So this is a very robust study. And what they found is historically, these kind of foods were seen mostly in people of lower socioeconomic status. But that is no longer true. This study indicated that it's across all socioeconomic domains. So what does that mean? What that means is this is actually a choice. It's not just people of lower socioeconomic means that might live in these food deserts where they have little to no access of natural whole foods, and they have to get convenience store or packaged foods. This is now a choice. It's all socioeconomic levels. So this is people who have the means to purchase healthy, whole foods, fresh foods, and they're choosing not to. This is now a choice. I'm choosing to give my teenager 2/3 of their diet ultra-processed food. And we're wondering if we should mask up or vaccinate our kids. How about we just start with phase 1, which is how about we give them the nutrition necessary to even mount an immune reaction, to help support their mucosal immune system. There's layers and layers to our mucosal immune system that is very dependent upon certain nutrients that are going to be completely devoid in a 2/3, ultra processed diet. So how about we reverse that, and let's go with 2/3 of the diet that is made of natural whole foods, the way that, you know, you should look at it and go, okay, I could tell like this was produced by nature and not by some machine. And so, you know, I'm not saying that those foods should go to zero. Maybe it's only a third or less of the diet, but 2/3 of the dominant portion of the diet should definitely contain whole natural foods, especially in a pandemic situation like this, where our immune systems need to be tip top. This is not the time to go, all right, let's eat a bunch of comfort food. This is the time to really double down on what, you know, nature has provided for us, and eat these foods in their whole, most natural form. And we could talk about the discussion of do these need to be organic or non-organic. You know, that is maybe a slightly separate discussion, but at the least you would want to eat these foods in the form that nature intended. Maybe we should at least go with, you know, the environmental working group, EWG.org, their Dirty Dozen, their top 12 foods that have the highest amount of pesticide residue. Maybe just those 12 foods would be a good place to start. Maybe you should get those ones just organic. Foods that aren't on that list, maybe you don't need those to be organic as far as produce, because they just don't have the pesticide residue that would be concerning. But those Dirty Dozen, maybe that would be a good place to start. But even putting that conversation aside, it's just making an effort to have you know, fresh whole foods. So key for people's immune systems, especially kids that are still developing, teenagers. And so it's really key to make sure that these foods are really what are dominant in people's diets. And it's not that hard. It's a choice, and hopefully people will get this message. This is a very, very robust study from, you know, the top people in the industry of nutrition science, you know, really sounding the alarm and letting us know this information. So I will keep reading the studies and bringing you the information. Until next time, keep it real.